Are you an over-informed INFJ? Do you just collect information upon information upon information without ever taking action and just make an excuse? You just need a little bit more information. You need it from another source. There's something to getting lots of information, and it's something that INFJs are very good at. But if you struggle perennially with getting more and more and more information to the exclusion of ever doing anything with it, then that's a problem. I've certainly struggled with this challenge. When I was first starting to blog, I wanted to find other people who were interested in reading what I was writing. And the beginning step that I knew to take was to share it with Facebook friends and to invite them to check out an article or to subscribe for more information. So I had put together a message and was planning to send it out, and then I just waited. And I thought about why I should do it and why I should not do it, how I should do it, when I should do it, if I should read some more things about the best way to do it. In other words, I came up with every excuse possible, but the best way to learn was actually just to press the send button and to see what happened. And even though I told myself otherwise, I wasn't going to die. It wasn't going to be the end of the world. And if people weren't interested, they just weren't going to take part. They weren't going to do anything with what I sent. So eventually I sent it, and I learned a lot from that information, but I could have gotten that done in a lot less time. And admittedly, a lot has to do with the type of decision you're facing. Some decisions are more important than others. For instance, when I was looking for a spouse and hoping to get married, I could have taken a lot more action in the beginning as well. And I eventually got to a point where I realized that I needed to get out there and be active in the search. Maybe more to come on that in a future episode. But I eventually made a list of people that I really admired, that I wanted to get to know, and just see if they'd be interested in going on a date. And it wasn't until I started taking action that things really fell into place. But for a long time, I was just gathering information and thinking about what would be good qualities to have in a spouse, or things that I needed to do to get ready when I really, not that those are bad things by the way, needed to get out and start meeting people and seeing if people would be interested in going on a date. And eventually I actually got some help from friends in the pursuit. But the point is, I needed to take action instead of just gathering more information. So what are the big reasons why we drag our feet as INFJs? Why do we get stuck in just the information collecting instead of taking more action? Well, part of it is our dominant function, introverted intuition. We are excellent at researching. We're great at collecting information, and we love to see patterns. We like to get information from a variety of sources and see if the sources agree and if we can start to put some things together with our intuition. And we have to get a lot more information than other people. That's just part of being an introvert, and being an introvert in particular that's focused on collecting information and putting the pieces together. So to some extent, you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. It's just how you're wired. And if you need more time, that's okay. You may not be as action-oriented as the most extrovert. In fact, you probably will not be unless it really means a lot to you and you feel the time crunch. Furthermore, since introverted intuition is our dominant function, it's our best skill. It's our number one strength. It's our powerhouse, is what we're really good at. But we're not quite as good at making decisions and being decisive as a judging extrovert would be. Someone who's really good at getting in there and taking charge and just making decisions. We're better at collecting the information that go into those decisions and making sure they're well informed, but we haven't spent the same degree and amount of time developing the decision-making skills. That doesn't mean that we can't develop those skills. It just means that it's not going to come to you as naturally as it would to an extroverted judger or even an introverted judger who's better at making decisions. So what can you do about it? Good news, you can get better. You can develop your auxiliary function, your second function, which is extroverted feeling, as well as your tertiary, introverted thinking, both of which will help you make better decisions. And the cool thing is that you can use your dominant function, introverted intuition, to help you get better at both of those. You can read articles and read books and learn from other people about how to be a more decisive decision maker. One of the best principles that I've learned from my information collecting and research about decision making is Parkinson's law. Tasks expand to the time allotted for their completion. So if you want to make decisions, sometimes you just need to give yourself a time limit. You need to say, okay, I'm going to decide after 20 minutes if it's a small decision, or I'm going to decide after 3 days if it's a bigger decision, or I'm going to decide after fill in the blank how many days or how much time. But by setting a deadline for yourself, you will force yourself to make a decision earlier on. Another principle that's been helpful for me is to involve other people in the decision-making process. Let them know that you want to take action and then get them to hold you accountable so that you'll actually do something with it and be true to your word and also live up to what you told them you were going to do. We INFJs generally really appreciate accountability because we like the moral support of a group. So bringing some other people into your life who you know care about you and who are also pursuing similar things can be helpful to you because you can help one another and hold each other accountable and hopefully go further faster. Principle number 3 is that you need to understand that sometimes gathering information and spending more time making something or creating something or getting ready for something isn't as beneficial as just making the simplest design possible and just putting it out there and seeing what happens. Sometimes you just need to do these micro experiments and put out what isn't the greatest just so you can learn from it. I don't know if you've ever heard of that study about how kindergartners were able to put together a tower a lot faster and better than kids older than they were, as well as maybe even adults, because they spent way less time in the planning stages. Instead, they just made a prototype, put it out there, saw how it failed, and then tried to make it better. And then that one failed. And then they did it again, and they did it again until they finally got something that stood pretty well. Now, they didn't have the knowledge of older people, but because they just put their prototypes out there fast and learned from them, they were able to make better models using the resources they have than some people who spent a ton of time planning, gathering information, and trying to make the perfect one from the very beginning when they probably should have been doing way more experimenting and putting themselves out there. Two of my favorite authors, Chip and Dan Heath, have a great book on making decisions called Decisive. And one of the things they recommend in that book is taking micro experiments, which they call ooching. So if you have a big decision to make, see if you can do a little experiment and learn from it. And that information that you're going to gather, again, is going to help you make a better decision. I learned another fantastic principle from author and blogger Jonathan Milligan a few years ago, who said the simplest solution is often the best. And his point was that often we get bogged down in the technical. Like if we're trying to start a blog, for instance, which was his niche, then we might get bogged down in figuring out how to do the code of the website, or if you're starting a podcast, how to do it with this microphone and that microphone and this website and whatever, when often we just need to find the simplest solution. Maybe you just need a USB microphone that plugs right into your computer instead of having to run that XLR into a box and then into your computer and having some other interfaces to mess around with. Just use the USB mic. Or maybe you, instead of having a really complicated website, should just use Kajabi, a really easy all-in-one website. Find that simple solution and go with that. We don't always have to make it difficult, and we can make decision-making easier for ourselves if we find the simplest solution. Sometimes we fail to take action because we just don't know what the best next step is, and we need to break things down. That's a huge cause of procrastination. So if you're not sure what to do next and you're having trouble taking action, break it down. So for instance, if you need to make a phone call and you hate phone calls, which a lot of INFJs, including me, generally don't like, what you should do is break it down into steps. Okay, what's the phone number? Find the phone number would be your first step. Then the next step might be to schedule the time when you're going to call. And then obviously after that, you're going to call and maybe leave a message and have a plan for if the person doesn't pick up. But you can break anything down into smaller steps so that it's not so overwhelming, because a lot of times we just spin our wheels because we haven't figured out what the next most tangible, easy to take step is. If you'd like more on this particular principle, then David Allen's book, Getting Things Done, is your go-to guide. Many INFJs' nemesis and saboteur that keeps them from taking action is perfectionism. So if perfectionism is keeping you from doing something, then you just need to follow this principle. Done is better than perfect. And I have to often use the gift of looking ahead to help myself put this into action and to put this into practice. So if I'm thinking, I want to do this perfectly, I have to do it this way, I need to get more information, then I think, what would it be like if I never actually put myself out there in the world? How would I feel if I didn't take action? I didn't try this thing. And just thinking about how disappointed I would be often is enough to get me to take the action that I need to take. So remember, done is better than perfect. Now, it wouldn't be fair for me to also recognize that not all decisions are the same, as I mentioned earlier, but some are just really big decisions that deserve careful thought and input from other people. Sometimes you just need to find really wise counselors that can help you, those people who've been there before, who just have good advice about life that can help you make a wise decision. And there are some things I haven't mentioned that don't really even fall on the map of what we're talking about. So there are certainly exceptions, and you need to give yourself grace. And also, it's important to keep in mind that sometimes we're in seasons of life where we're just overwhelmed and we've experienced some decision-making fatigue, or maybe we've just had a really rough day. Maybe sometimes we're in such a bad mood that we just need to get more rest and take care of our bodies, get some sleep, or take care of our hearts and minds, our spirits, whatever it may be, so that we're in a better place to make decisions. So you have to take all of that into account when you go to make an important decision and you're hoping to take more action. The last recommendation I'll give you on how to become a better decision maker and take more action as an INFJ is to keep learning about what makes you you as an INFJ, to learn more about your personality. And if you'd like to learn more about your INFJ personality, I'd love to give you a free copy of my book, The INFJ Personality Guide. In the book, you'll learn about the mindsets and motivations that cause you to do what you do as an INFJ, as well as hopefully come away with an understanding that you're not messed up or broken, but just different, and the world needs your unique and valuable skills and gifts. They need you. To grab a free copy of the book, visit infjbook.com and get your copy there. Well, thanks so much for watching this video today. If you found it helpful, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up so other INFJs can find it too. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, definitely consider doing that so you don't miss out on future videos. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next show.